If you thought there might be a little bit of jank with the largest, most ambitious conversion mod for a 9-year-old Bethesda game, then you would be absolutely correct. And if you also think that exploring the first post-apocalyptic setting in the Fallout universe not set in North America would be a smashing good time,
bloody hell, what was that?
Sounded painful if you ask me.
you'd also be correct. You're 2 for 2, bud. Let's see what else you can hit the nail right on that head with. The entire context of this video is going to be how flipping phenomenal the Fallout London Total Conversion mod is. When it is working, I have experienced several crashes. There's some information I want to share because it can most likely make your experience so much smoother. But even still, you kind of have to set expectations that if there's bugs, glitches, and crashes on the standard vanilla version of Fallout 4, then a total conversion mod that wipes out Boston and replaces it with a massive London map that is literally the size of the vanilla Fallout 4 and Far Harbor expansion maps. Pretty fucking big. It's a big sandbox. And furthermore than that, within that sandbox, it is actually incredibly dense with enemies to blow their heads off in vats, and a ton of really good voice acted NPCs, factions that you're gonna meet, quests. It feels like a full-blown Fallout game, like I'm playing Fallout 4.5, or the closest thing we're gonna get to Fallout 5 for many moons. Wrong wrist, bud. So without further ado, I've got some notes pulled up on my phone. I'm not texting on the job or anything. And I want to talk about the sheer frustration of Fallout London, as well as the sensuality of it when you're just, it is a Fallout game to its core.
And I'll be able to finish it off.
First of all, what is Fallout London? It is a massive total conversion mod for Fallout 4, the last major release single-player Fallout title from Bethesda Studios, and personally, my favorite Fallout title. Definitely leans more on the action-adventure slash first-person shooter mechanics and a lot less on the RPG mechanics of Fallout 3 and New Vegas, 2 games that I also really enjoy and appreciate. Me personally, modded and vanilla Fallout 4, the gameplay loop has always just looped right into my soul, and it feels great. But the setting gets a little bit stale when you've experienced it head to toe, tip to tits, touch each corner of the map multiple times because it's a 9-year-old game, and that is when you start exploring total conversion mods which do just that. A lot of them are labeled as DLC size, so think of it like adding on Nuka World or Far Harbor to Fallout 4, except it's built by the community, by modders that aren't employed by Bethesda. And a total conversion mod takes that to the next level, as it's basically taking the entire game's framework, gameplay, foundation, but then adding a new story, new setting, new features, new menus, interfaces, basically taking that old bag of bones that you've been rolling around with in the sack, putting a facelift and a couple of beanbag bolt-ons on it to where you're interested again. So the biggest piece of advice, the best piece of advice I can give to any gamer with a pulse right now is to purchase the GOG version. Now I have the entire Fallout collection on Steam. I got it on sale. It comes with every Fallout game and all the DLCs. Having said that, GOG is pretty much partnered or sponsored with the Fallout London team to where it is integrated so much smoother and easier to where you just install it like a normal game, which I'm going to touch on in just a second is complete polar opposite to the experience you're going to get attempting to get Fallout London running on the Steam version. Do not waste your time, and you're not really going to be wasting your money either, because the version you need of Fallout 4 is either the complete edition with all the DLCs from Steam or the Game of the Year GOTY edition from GOG Launcher, which was on sale for $9 for weeks, and now it is $15 still on sale, probably because, like I mentioned, the GOG team is in cahoots with the Fallout London team, so they're going to keep that base price for the game that is required really low so people can install this mod and play it. The mod is completely free, however, there is a donate option, and I do recommend if you spend several hours playing this game that you throw a couple of shekels, a couple of bucks towards the developers. Obviously, it's optional, you don't have to. A lot of time and energy went into this project, and also a lot of frustration near the end of its development, right before release, with so many thousands of hours into this project. It was almost crippled by the next gen update, which, by the way, is great on console, but if you're on the PC side of the house, just don't even touch it. I'm gonna venture a guess to say ever. It's going to be just like the Skyrim situation, where a lot of individuals are on the post-anniversary version, and a lot of gamers that want a mod are on the old school game files. The GOG version is pre-next gen update, and it's always going to remain there. GOG is not going to update it, which is fantastic, because if you have the Steam Steam version like I do and I attempted to mod, you do need to downgrade it, and the downgrader does require you to enter your personal Steam information, your login information, password and all, to a third party from the mod developer. And there is a way to do this without entering your personal information, but it requires even more steps, and once you've done that, there's still a chance that it doesn't downgrade your game properly. I was able to downgrade my Steam game, but then guess what? It automatically updated. Despite the fact I watched a little YouTube tutorial on how to disable automatic updates for Fallout 4, I did that, still didn't work for me, so I just spent the $15 on GOG and was up and running playing Fallout London stress-free very quickly. So biggest piece of advice, stay the fuck away from the Steam version and get the GOG version. These gray hairs on the side, they weren't there just a couple of weeks ago. This was because I tried to install the Steam version first. So the biggest thing I want to touch on right up front, now we've talked about how to get the game installed, how to actually get playing it, but there's some serious jank to get up and running even with the GOG version. The main thing that I noticed that was throwing a cog in my playthrough is the fact that it does default to a low resolution, and I was playing for about 5 minutes and I started looking around at some textures and I'm thinking, oh cool, they'll throw back to PS2 graphics. This simply is not right. And then I had to look up online how to actually do the graphic settings because there is no dedicated launcher there. Yes, you're using the GOG launcher, and then there's a little pop-up from Team London to launch the game. That doesn't have any graphic settings, so what you need to do is launch the Fallout 4 game, but don't launch the game itself or you're gonna fuck up your mod. Just launch the game to where you get that little pop-up where you can go to settings and set your graphics settings here, but it's not gonna be quite that easy, my friend. You're also going to need to manually cap the frame rate or refresh rate of your monitor to 60 frames per second. The native refresh of my monitor is 240 hertz, and the physics of the game are still bound to the FPS, which is kooky, so my character started running crazy fast like he was on crystal meth as soon as I bumped up the resolution and graphics and all that other good stuff. So my options for about 30 minutes while I was doing some troubleshooting was, do I want to play this game with really ugly graphics but playable, or do I want to see acceptable graphics for 2024 but my guy zips across the screen and is uncontrollable pretty much? Luckily, it didn't take me too long to find out that all you need to do is right click on the desktop and cap your monitor to 60 FPS. Kind of sucks because every time I stop playing the game and want to go back to playing other games, I've got to remember your monitor's at a third of its usual refresh, which you can notice immediately just by dragging your mouse across the screen. Now, some of my crashes were actually because I had OBS running in the background, screen recording my gameplay, but that's never been an issue before. I have a very high-end system, does have a 4090, an overclocked i9, 64 gigabytes of DDR5 RAM clocked to the high seas, so usually screen capturing doesn't really hinder my game performance because NVIDIA graphics cards have what's called NVENC or NVIDIA encoder on board, which is a separate component on board the GPU that generally doesn't tax your game performance at all and handles all of your encoding. Yet another reason I prefer NVIDIA GPUs over AMD. CPU side of the house, not so much. In my next build, I will definitely be going the AMD route. But I manually updated my OBS and dumped out some cache files and did some things that seemed to smooth out the crashes. And the biggest thing that I had going on was my NVIDIA GeForce Experience basically just stopped doing automatic updates in the background to where my drivers for my GPU were out of date. Not by a lot, just a week or two, but it was enough to be causing mad crashes. As where now my crashes aren't angry, they've gone to anger management, and they're slightly pissed off crashes, but not mad crashes, meaning not every 5 to 6 minutes, more like every hour or two, which is even more frustrating because I'll be playing the game for shit, like a 3-hour stretch, no crashes, and then boom, crash after crash after crash after crash. Super frustrating as a diehard Fallout fan that's been looking forward to playing this total conversion mod for 2-3 years and is playing it, has been having a great time with it, but there's a lot of jankety McJankage in here. The least troublesome are going to be the typical visual glitches that you see NPCs clipping into walls, weird environmental pixelation and pop-in on foliage, just typical stuff that you would see in a regular full release Bethesda game. But I did have some pretty major glitches, such as this one where I couldn't look down in first person. In third person, I can look down at the floor, look up at the sky, but in first person, which I play 98% of the time, there's no vertical control of the camera, just horizontal. And unfortunately, restarting the game and even redeploying the mod, which you can do without losing your progress, by the way. If you redeploy the mod, your save game files are in a separate folder, you're good there. But that didn't do jack shit, and I actually had to load back, lose about 5 to 6 minutes of progress. And then that's another thing I want to touch on is save frequently. I say this all the time with modded Fallout or Skyrim, but it could not be any more important here with Fallout London. And don't just quick save, because quick saves are going to overwrite each other to where you only have like the last quick save available. I'm talking about manual saves. Just every 5 minutes or so, save. You notice a little bit of frame rate chug, save. save. You notice a weird visual glitch, save. Things aren't feeling right, save. It's gonna save you a shitload of time by not having to backtrack, because when you get that weird glitch where something silly's happening, you only have to load back 3 minutes, not 3 hours. And I fully understand that these are things that we should not have to deal with on our end, the gamers over here. It's a little more acceptable with something like a total conversion mod, where it's based on a 9-year-old game that's already known for being a janky, blown out mess. But then on top of it, you're putting a total conversion mod on top of it. So we got all that technical mumbo jumbo out of the way. What are you watching, Digital Foundry or Gamer Heaven? Let's talk about the actual game now. Was I in Heaven Planet, or was I in the depths of hell getting pissed the fuck off? The game has a little bit of a slow start, I will say. You don't pick up a gun and start slinging brass and slapping ass for quite some time. There's a big focus on melee combat, as you're going to be doing some bare knuckle fisticuffs for about the first 15-20 minutes. Then you've got melee weapons for about an hour or so. Then you start picking up guns, but ammo is still freakishly scarce, so it definitely encourages a more of a melee build. That, and the first weapon you get is this slick looking legendary butterfly knife, where there's a ton of really cool character animations where he's constantly spinning it around like a streamer playing Apex Legends. Honestly, I could watch the animations for flipping the little knife all day. Combat is notably harder than Fallout 4 or 76 or any Fallout that I've played recently. Just don't feel bad if you bump the difficulty down to easy. If you make it very easy, just go ahead and unsubscribe now, but easy, totally fine. Which does make the enemies less tanky, which is a problem I've always had with Bethesda games, Fallout, Starfield, etc., is that you gotta 2-mag somebody to put them down, especially in the early game. And that just shouldn't be the case. That doesn't make the gameplay or combat fun or engaging. Now, what I personally like is when you can fine-tune your difficulty like Starfield allows, to where I can make it to where I'm putting out way more damage, but enemies can also pretty much 3 well-placed bullets from an enemy and I'm on the ground. So the time to kill's low, kind of makes it feel like Tarkov a little bit, where you're actually having to take cover and gunfights are exciting instead of just standing out in the open, tanking enemies for 3 minutes. That's just boring. So because of that, during the early game, I did bump it down to easy difficulty for a while, just because enemies were hell of tanky, but now I'm back at normal, that I've picked up some weapons that actually aren't paintball guns. The music is fee-fi-fo fucking phenomenal. You do have 3 default radio stations, which are fully voice acted, with a host that introduces new songs and gives you some witty banter.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're all tuned into Old Blighty's best radio station, The Mend, with me, your host, Nigel, the Nihilist. Here's a real classic from the good old days.
And not only the radio stations, but also everything you're gonna see is just like how Fallout has that kind of 50s Americana feel, you know, very patriotic and very Americana. That's the actual word for it. And London nails this exact same environment, but with London, England. It is beautiful. Everything you see is just modified and tweaked to where you can tell it's got those Fallout bones, but every item you pick up, shoot, even your Pit-Boy, it ain't wrist mounted anymore. It's the Attaboy tablet, which I thought was so fucking cool. Same thing with the computers, or terminals, I should say. Those look sick. They have a little green trackball. The animations for them look super cool. The heads-up display is white by default, but you can change it, of course. There is a weapon wheel, which I thought was really cool. And I will say the opening scene is great. It does start a little bit slow, but it is a perfect tutorial, as it does walk you through meeting the main faction. You have 3 or 4 members of this main faction. I'm not going to spoil anything whatsoever, but as you talk to each one of them, it's going to introduce you to a new game mechanic. Hey, this is how you craft weapons. Can you build me a laser rifle, please? Now, one thing I did notice that I absolutely hate is that the load times are freakishly long, and I guess this is understandable because it's on the pre-next gen update, which that was like the main beneficial thing of the next gen update, was it substantially decreased load times and also doubled the frame rate on console from 30 to 60. And I, of course, have a SSD. Actually, all 4 of the drives on my computers are either NVMe SSDs on the MOBO or traditional solid state drives. I don't have any old school mechanical hard drives because it's, you know, 2024. But load times are so long. They're long entering a small building, very long exiting to the main game world out into London, and super long when you fast travel. So I do recommend just looking at the map, and if the destination you're trying to get to is kind of close, just run there, because you're going to get there before that black screen goes away and you've fast traveled in. I knew load times would be long, considering I've played a heavily modded with 2 collections for a total of about 1,300 mods, vanilla plus playthrough of Fallout 4, and the load times were long as shit there because it's loading an entire mod stack, but the load times are very, very long here. You do have a dog, so think of him like dog meat, except it's an English bulldog named, oh my god, I'm drawing blank on the name. Hold on a second. This is gonna drive me crazy. Churchill. And I will say he's not as cute as dog meat. Personally, I think he's a pretty ugly little hound, but he's still, I'm a dog lover, so I like to have him with me. But the noises he produces are pretty god awful. So not only his which sounds like a fucking super mutant's about to run up on you, that's just your dog making weird noises. But also his footsteps are so cracked ass loud to where you're going to need to reduce them by about half, because you're not going to be able to pinpoint any enemy footsteps because your dog is just a heavy footed turd.
Yeah. Apart from me.
Ella Fitzgerald.
So I was off to a rocky, rough start with what is one of the coolest intros. I think a lot of Fallout and Elder Scrolls games have typically had a really nut-busting intro. We're talking about dragons coming in while you're about to be beheaded. We're talking about taking your family, running for your life from nuclear explosions, and then watching your wife get shot with a magnum. And here you have this really cool train ride, which is about 45 seconds and then gets this nice London splash screen. And the cool thing to note is this is the actual map that you're going to be playing on. And if you have your settings cranked to high or ultra, you're going to see a lot of detail, and I got really excited thinking, wow, I'm going to have a great time exploring this map. Unfortunately, the train derailed and crashed to the desktop, followed directly by this truly bizarre glitch where it wouldn't complete the first quest. I was stuck on the railroad tracks on foot, and I had to reload the game because the quest was hung up. What you're supposed to see is this right here, where it says, hey, you found your way out, and then it introduces you to two really nasty medical afflictions that are going to F you up in battle. You do 10% less damage and take 10% more damage. Go F yourself. And I was about to get F'd in the A, as well as 2 steps forward, I crashed to the desktop. And then I got really nervous. Am I going to be able to play this game? Because it crashed again, just trying to load in. Like all Fallout games, there is a day and night cycle. However, the game strategically starts you at night because there's a ton of graphical mods, including the one on the sky that I think's the same exact cosmic solar system sky mod that I have on my Fallout 4 playthrough. But the low light atmosphere with everything glowing off in the distance, like this bus and these lamps, everything looks amazing. This is also where you're going to meet your first set of non-hostile people, get introduced to the dialogue and charisma system, sweet talk their cheeks off, and get the legendary Bully Song Knife, which is a sweet toothpick. The next little thing I want to touch on is the fact that I have been dabbling with Fallout 76, playing that with my fiance recently, and me personally, I've always liked Fallout 4 a lot more than 76, so the fact that I'm jumping back to a game that's based on the core files of 4, not 76, had me really liking a lot of the things that Fallout 4 does versus 76. For example, there's no weapon durability. You don't have to worry about food and water. You can turn on survival mode if you want to dick with managing food and water, but this isn't Escape from Tarkov. This is Fallout. VATS actually slows time instead of zooming in real time. Jumping does not drain AP. Sprinting, of course, but jumping, no. Looting's done more traditional, where you have to walk up to each individual corpse. You can't just group loot from all corpses within a 10-mile radius, which is cool for convenience. I actually like that. It makes sense in an online game, but it really does take you out of the immersion, super unrealistic, and also just it feels weird being able to scoop up loot around you like that. And since it's an offline game, I can actually pause it if I need to get up and take a piss. I also have to say, graphically, this game looks way better than I thought it would, because Fallout 4 has never been a pretty game, even on PC with the settings cranked to the right, ultra everything. It's not a very pretty game until you start installing graphical mods, things like texture packs, which are usually pretty large. There's an opening scene where you walk into this large indoor corridor, which gives off serious BioShock vibes, but the lighting in here, oh boy, it looked so good, and I just had to look around at every texture, every wall, every scratch on the floor, and think to myself, wow, this is a really pretty looking mod. All the voice acting that I've encountered thus far and the facial animation, literally on par with an actual Bethesda main entry game. Never once was I thinking, well, this is just some guy in his basement voicing this shit over. So the main summary, the takeaway of this video, it's kind of difficult to get up and running playing Fallout London, but once you are, it's fun as shit.
Here we go. London, baby!
Okay, because that's not going to get annoying.
London, baby! London, baby!
That's the stuff. Oh, what the hell is that?
That's London, baby!
It's gonna crash on you at least once, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, sorry.
If it doesn't, fuck you. I'm jealous of you. From what I've heard, there's one reviewer, is it Juicehead? Somebody I was watching was like, yeah, I played through the whole thing, no crashes. And I'm thinking, damn you, brother. Everyone else I watched was dealing with very similar issues. So don't be confused in my future peripheral reviews if you see a lot of gameplay B-roll that isn't usual Fallout 4, but maybe Fallout London, as it is fun as shit, and I'm going to be playing it in between crashes. Drop in the comment section below if you've been able to play it, and if you have you had any issues? And when you're not having issues, what do you like about this game? Is it the environment? Is it the taste, the smell, the textures of London? Now I'm gonna go hop my ass in a double-decker bus, join the Queen's Guard with one of them long fuzzy hats, and get the fuck out of here. Peace. If you enjoyed the video, liking it helps it to get seen by more gamers, so this information will reach and assist them as well. Much like the back of the TV, I've got plugs for all of my socials down there in the description below. And your wallet will greatly thank you if you check the description, because there are exclusive discounts on a ton of products, including controllers, KontrolFreeks, keyboards, mouse pads, clothes, and energy drinks. And keep in mind that you, the viewer, keep this channel running. The more stallions and stallionettes trotting around the stable, the better, so mollywop that subscribe button like it owes you money, and we'll have the same amount of fun tomorrow.